Hi, how's everyone doing? Happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. I wanted to talk about something really interesting called uniformity and articulation. It's a concept that I got from this book by Henry Brant. It's called Textures and Timbres. He was a brilliant orchestrator, composer in his own right. He wrote a lot of spatial music and orchestrated for a lot of amazing composers. And anyone who's interested in just interesting concepts, I would definitely, suggest checking this book out. So I sort of took what he started, I think, and kind of thought about it a little further. But what he talks about in his book, this would be, what I would call the original gesture that you might get from a composer. It might be in MIDI. It might be something you yourself composed. And talking about 3 different ways to split this out and how the 3 different ways of splitting it out might suggest certain orchestral colors. So if you want a total legato effect, I would sort of call this chorale style. And interestingly enough, this is actually how Maurice Ravel liked to split things out when he transcribed his own piano music. So if you're re-articulating a note, he would typically look for the repeated notes and tie them. And he would do this in any choir. So this is just one approach with something like that. The second approach, I'm just sort of calling a more tenuto style, which is taking the repeated notes, which you can see here in voice 2, that there's B, B, B on beats 2, 3, and 4. So that's why this is a dotted half note here. So rather than tying the durations together, you're re-articulating them. And if it's in the strings, we use a tenuto and it's a loure stroke. And I sort of think of Debussy for this kind of string writing, not that he invented it, but just something very expressive in the strings that really emphasizes it. So this is another approach that you could do from this original gesture. And the last, I sort of think of maybe a little bit more of a German approach, just with a lot of string crossing or voice crossing. And this approach is basically to avoid a repeated note, we voice cross. So you've got 3 different ways to split something out. And that's what Henry Brant talks about. But what I thought was that these different styles to me suggest different colors. And then I thought to myself, well, what if you combined, say, a voice crossed and a chorale together in the same choir, rather than having the whole herd articulate the same way? This is very nuanced stuff. But I think anyone from watching my videos by now knows I'm a little extra and maximalist with stuff, but that's just, I sleep better at night. I don't know. So anyways, take for example a chorale approach. What if we had a string choir, consort, sul tasto, marked pianissimo, playing with very little vibrato and doing this chorale approach? And then what if we had 4 soloists, 4 violins or 2 violins and 2 violi, marked senza sword without mutes, playing, molto espressivo. So we have 2 different choirs, rather than giving the entire string choir this, or the entire string choir that. Another concept, this would be obviously if you have woodwinds in 4, or you're in a wind band or something with a larger instrumentation. But what if this was 4 flutes, or 2 flutes and 2 clarinets? And then, so that's more in the background, the chorale we're sustaining. And what if we had double reeds do the voice crossed? So we have something sustaining in the back. We're picking flutes and clarinets because they can be more breathy and more transparent. And then we're having people that have a little more tart and vinegar colors, like oboe, cor anglais, bassoon, doing voice crossed. So you're layering these things. So I just thought it's a cool concept. I just haven't heard anyone talk about. If somebody's already come up with this, my apologies. It was just something I thought about, and I think it's worth exploring. But I would say the most used, at least with Ravel, is this sort of chorale. You'll see this in like Le Jardin Féerique, I forget. You know, the last movement from Ma Mère Le Roi. He does this all the time. I mean, it's almost formulaic. Like if there's repeated notes in the piano, he's gonna tie them over. So yeah, this is a really just different way to think about things. And again, it comes from a Henry Brant book. And I hope this might be helpful. So anyways, hope you guys are all really well. And I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.